So it's important for me to mention agricultural research is a big part of what we do on our Nutrilite farms. In fact, I don't know how many of you visit our farms. Show of hand, anybody been to any of our farms? Okay, well if you were to go today, you will see each site has a dedicated land for ag research, and we call those Renboard research plots. So we have, again, I say PhD scientists at each of the farm sites. They work closely with our corporate R&D groups, such as Ivana, who's going to come up next after me, to really working on botanical innovations. And when we talk about these innovations, they're not just plant discovery. What is the next, best phytonutrient? But they also study on our farm technology. How do we continue to improve our organic farming, our method, so that we can improve the quality, the yield, make us better, superior quality, and more competitive at the end of the day. Again, I talk about our scientists does a lot of fingerprinting to really understand the genetic makeup of our seeds, our plants. It's just like your DNA, right? So they do that. And as an example, again, I'll go back to our Nutrilite XX. What I know, Ivana, correct me if I'm wrong, for that one particular product that we've done almost 20,000 tests, spreading over almost 1,000 botanicals, so that we can find the best blend to use that in that one particular product. This is, again, speak to that dedication. And once we have a hit on our research, the Renboard plot that I spoke to you about will scale up, and so that we have a deeper study on a larger scale, so that as we transition to commercialization, through this process we'll learn how to grow and how to grow it well. And to further extend our agricultural research, in 2015, I believe, we opened an Amway Botanical Research Center in Wuxi, China. We call it ABRC. This particular facility is dedicated to research on traditional Chinese medicines, with the goal that we'll find findings there. We can incorporate this medicine that's known for thousands of years into our nutrition and or beauty products. So I would say this facility really takes us back to where Karl Renbourn started, right, in China in the early 1900s, where he discovered that the various healthy benefits coming from a plant-based diet. So again, this facility focused on just really extend our knowledge of the Chinese botanicals using very advanced technology and scientific practices. I mentioned that these TCMs, they've been around for thousands of years, and I've been told that there are like thousands of TCMs. So what we do here is really taking a more scientific approach. Again, going deeper to understand what are the phytonutrients, what are some of the biomarkers that we're looking for in these plants, and what levels they need to be to give us that potency. And at ABRC, they have established a library that catalogs all the plant species down to each one of them, what is their benefit. So very extensive research and investment on our ag research there. This site sits on, I believe, 600 acres of farmland. But what is really awesome about this facility is that it boasts almost 31,000 square feet of greenhouse. So simultaneously, apart from the seasonality, you have all that space to study all of those Chinese botanicals. This is also a site that we serve as an experience center for our ABO. So ABO goes there, as well as hosting government agencies, medias, so that they have the opportunity firsthand to look at what we're doing to back up, our brand and what we call best of nature, best of science.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm.
So now we talk about seed, I would like to look at our farm. So we have the best seed. We need the best environment, right, to grow. So we have the high quality plant. We talk about 6,000 acres of organic farmland really dedicated to do exactly just that. So best supplement begins with the best plant, and really in order to achieve that, we have farms around the world so that we make sure we have the diversified climate and condition to grow different varieties of plants that we need. On this map, you only see the Nuttilite Amway-owned farm. I would say, and I have a slide later to talk about our partner growers through the NutriServe program. In fact, the program manager for NutriServe is sitting right behind you, Becky. But if you were to put all of those partner growers and our Nutrilite farm on this map, you will see them spread out over 27 countries, over every continent except Antarctica. This is how vast we are out there to make sure we understand all the different parts of the world that they have to offer through their local botanical plants. So we'll take a look at each of the farm. For our Trail Lake farm, I would say there is the west farm and there's the east farm. Just because you could put, Washington and how one is on the west side, one is on the east side. So we'll start looking at the west farm. It is sitting on what we call probably one of the last few organic valleys in the world. On this site, we farm on volcanic soil, and the water comes from the famous White Salmon River that is fed by glacier. That's how pure this environment is. It's a set of 400 acres, that we own 400 acres, but it is sitting around almost 4,500,000 acres of neighboring organic farms. So it really makes the most optimal environment when you talk about organic production, that you don't have a concern about cross-contamination, pollutions of that sort. So I would say for our farm, again, we're going to talk about a lot of ecological sustainability, what we do, but one thing I do want to point out, it's part of the philosophy of the Nutrilite farming, is not just looking out for the environment, but looking out for the community. So social responsibility is a huge part of our philosophy on each of the farms. So each site, that they do their part to make sure they empower their local community, whether it's sponsoring with local school, businesses, to make sure they promote programs that will increase the welfare of their communities. We listed a couple things that the farm does sponsors throughout their community, whether it's a school lunch program, we call it food bank on wheel or mobile food bank. And understand this is really a farming community. So you have a lot of migrant workers, and you have a lot of children belong to the migrant workers and farmers. So there's a lot of outreach for those people to make sure that there's another way for them to pursue their education, and we sponsor that as well.
I don't know if you'll touch on this, but those farms, surrounding farms that are organic in their nature, are they also NutriCert, or are they just organic, or are they just pesticide free?
So that's a great question. I will actually have a slide to talk about NutriCert, but the quick answer to your question is that if what's grown on that farm comes into our Nutrilite product, absolutely there will be NutriCert. But if they're organically growing, let's say blueberries for other outlet, it doesn't go through our NutriCert program. But they go through organic agency to certify their organic status.
There's a lower level of certification so that the pesticides don't cross over. Is that like if you're dropping pesticides from, they won't cross over. They're not NutriCert specifically.
Yeah, for organic farming, there really is no synthetic or chemical pesticide. So when I talk about your neighbors are all doing organic farming, they're all doing in the most natural way in terms of fertilizing, pesticiding, or composting their
The
soil.
NutriCert one level beyond organic.
Absolutely, there's that social responsibility of it as well. So,
Community side of things as well.
absolutely. So if Becky's up here, she'll tell you there are 3 wheels that makes my NutriCert. I'm kind of jumping ahead, but that's a great question. It's the ecological sustainability, it's a core principle, social responsibility, and then ultimately traceability. So those are the 3 power wheels that makes up our NutriCert program, and that's all that we do, and that's exactly everything that we do on our Nutrilite farms. Okay. So moving to our east farm, this is on the east side of the state, but it's really kind of like a central part of Washington. The beauty or the highlights I'm going to talk about this farm is that if you take your phone now and look at a satellite, you type in Euphrates Valley, that's where our east farm is. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not east farm, this is still west farm. I should look at here. So let me rewind and I'll go forward on the east farm later. So we talk about the beautiful combo of having that oceanic, Pacific Ocean, and then that glacier, that alpine climate. This is really the best environment to grow some of the awesome herbs. What I forgot to mention, and I think is still true, that West Lake, or Trout Lake West Farm, it is the largest certified organic herb farm in the United States. Okay, so here's just an example of the crops that we grow there that goes into our Nuttilite products. Echinacea goes into our immunity, and you have valerian and lemon that goes into sleep health. Blueberry in our powerful double X, and then dandelion in our liver health. So East Farm, how's that? All right, so almost 800 acres in the central Washington and near the town of Euphrates. Again, I was saying, if you take your phone out, you put in Euphrates, what you're gonna see on the satellite is that, gosh, there's a lot of farms there. The beauty with our East Farm, it is sitting on what we call close to the upper end of the Columbia River. The Columbia River is really the major river that runs through, a major vein that runs through the northwestern region of the United States. So this farm sits at the upper end, which means it gets first use of that delicious water coming out of the Columbia River. It's what they call Class A, the most pure when it comes to farming standard. Isn't that awesome? So again, that does wonderful things to our soil. And again, similar, I won't go into too much detail. Social responsibility, partnering with the local schools and business is still a key of make sure we give back to the community. And here's some example of what we grow at the East Farm. Things that didn't pop up earlier. You got alfalfa that goes into our double X, spinach that goes into iron folic, I believe. Peppermint goes into our garlic health, and then a root for prostate health. So let's take a look at our Mexico farm. It's about 1,600 acres in the southwest of Mexico, in the state of Jalisco. I would say this farm really is, when you think about Mexico and some of the things you hear down there, what's going on, that this particular area is really well protected. It's free from exploitation. It's so much so that we had to put a bullet on there that says that not a single paved road leads to this site. And I can attest to that. One of my first trips there, it was bumpy. And when I ask about the paved road, and I say, lady, this is nature. This is the best of nature. So enjoy the ride. So again, I mean, we acquired this farm, I think, the early 1991, and we put a lot of work into this area. And the climate down in Mexico is a little bit more desert. So we now have made it into what this picture shows, is really thriving farmland. It's called an oasis out there. We grow thousands of metric tons of fresh produce and provide jobs for hundreds of families around the area. And I would point out too that from a supply chain perspective, this particular farm probably provides the most ingredient into our Nutrilite product in terms of SKU count. Some example of what we grow there. One thing to call out is probably the grapefruit and orange. About 3-4 years ago, we made an investment and carved out about 300 acres of that land to make it an orchard part of our farm. It's a beautiful orchard farm there. So now we're able to vertically integrate grapefruit, orange, and I believe lemon as well. That goes in our concentrated fruit and vegetable.
Where does the water come from there, if it was desert? Where?
It is still from the surrounding, but then a lot of it's collected through the well, subterranean water. Yeah, I think altogether there are 3 wells around the farm site there. Last but not least, our Brazil farm, a little bit over 3,000 acres in the city of Ubajara in the northeast part of Brazil. Is it next door to rainforest? Almost next door, I don't know. And I would have to say, if any one of you were to ask me, Lillian, which farm is the most hard to get to, that costs the most effort to get to, this would be the one. So literally leaving my house to arriving at the farm, and I just live around here, takes 30 plus hours. Now, if you take away all the airport and between the airport, but when you land on Brazil, that's probably take your last stop of the airport at Brazil, it takes you 4 hours into this deep, beautiful, wild reserve, but beautiful orchard land out there. I remember my first trip there, drove up there, just miles and miles of trees, and very far away I see this white building. We call it White Palace. This is our facility there. So out of just green, vast greenness, there's our little White Palace right there. So as you know, we grow our Acerilla cherry there. All of our natural vitamin C comes from tens and thousands and hundreds of Acerilla trees we grow there. And again, I would say in the city of Ubajara, you'll find probably some of the most poorest community in Brazil. So for this particular farm, we really focus on children at risk, at social risk. So you talk about, again, meals, just even just down to showing them how to protect your environment, the recycle program, bring that to school so that they learn that environment protection can begin with them. Just those social responsibility things. So that's our focus with this particular site. I don't need to say about Acerilla cherry. I think everybody knows about Acerilla cherry, but what's really interesting is our Eclipta alba. This is actually a herb that thrives in the region area. And through our agricultural research, we found this one. And this is actually what we call a natural preservative that used in our personal care. So this is a great example where a Nuttilite organic botanical can cross beyond the nutrition business line, going to beauty and personal care.